Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Welcome back. Did you enjoy your break, your lunch?
Yes.
Lovely, lovely, lovely. And I'll be sharing now because Lawrence is busy being on Facebook. That's okay, isn't it?
That's what I'm talking about.
Yes. No, he's just taking care of the online viewers. So please, online they can put their comments and questions on so they can be answered. But what we can look forward to now is our next speaker that will talk about the spirit within. So, Ewan.
Thank you.
So the platform is yours.
Oh,
The time
thank
is
you.
yours.
Well, good afternoon. And also good afternoon to everybody that is joining us online as well. So I am here to speak about the spirit within. And of course I have what's known as the graveyard shift straight after lunch. So if anyone falls asleep, that's absolutely okay. I'll just throw something. Anyway, the spirit within. We look at that word spiritualism and we can take parts out of that word spiritualism. We can take the word spirit, we can take the word spiritual, but that leaves that wee ism at the end, ISM. What possible part could that play in spiritualism? And a few years ago, I realised it played a very, very important part. Spiritualism, spiritual ISM. ISM inside me. Spiritual inside me. That spirit within that we all have. What is it? What is that spirit within? And it can be the simple to the complex. Do you know if you're going into a house for the first time, whether you're buying it or renting it, you're through that front door and it either feels right or it feels wrong? What is it? You've not seen any of the rooms yet. It could have the most fabulous decor ever, etc. But you just know. It feels right, that's fine. It feels wrong. And then everything up here can tell us logical. What we should do in a situation, what we shouldn't do. That's worked it all out here. And yet something here says, or contradicts what's going on in the head. And again, I often think it's that spirit within. The spirit within is something that laughs with us. We feel it. It's the emotions. Or the opposite. It kind of warns us. It protects us. But that spirit within is something that evolves very much from the day we're born to the day we pass and thereon. And I look at some of the pivotal moments in my own life just as these examples of where I feel for me that spirit within changed. And I remember going back, like many people, to when I was younger, and things kind of didn't make sense. I believed there was something out there, but I never really got the answers. And I was one of these annoying kids, and still am annoying, I think, to a certain extent as well these days, where I always wanted to find that answer, and I still am. And if I didn't get the answer, I would ask again. And that came into everything, almost faith, even at a young age as well. I remember going to Sunday school. And I remember one Sunday refusing to go to Sunday school. And my parents could not make me for life nor money. And that was that. But looking back on it, I realised something didn't make quite sense. And then in these years, I remember those moments, and when I go back, I realise that it was that spirit within, where I could feel that emotion. Maybe there was something not quite right, and then something would happen, maybe in family, something like that. You know that feeling that we get? We just know something's not quite right. And I was always aware of that there was others there, but I wasn't quite sure who they were. Now, growing up, I was not seeing dead people. I have to say that. But I was aware of them. So we then travel up to about age 17, 18. And something happened in life that threw everything into turmoil. And my father died. And it was at a young age, and we had not long moved house and everything. So that was one of these moments where I think, you question everything once again. But a couple of years later, my mother was asked by a friend if she wanted to go to a spiritualist church. And my mother said, yes. So she went with a friend, and she got a few messages, and she would come back and tell me. I thought, yes, this is getting interesting. This is good. And then one day I decided to go along as well. And I went along, and I got a reading. I sat in that chair like that. Motionless, expressionless, prove it. And she did. And just to give you a couple of examples of what she came out with, she said, I have your father here, and his name is John. Common name, okay? He's pointing to his chest, but it's not his heart. Okay. Well, my father actually died from breast cancer, which was very unusual at that time. And then she said to me other things. I remember saying no. And some of it was quite personal. I said, no, definitely not. Until I went back and checked with my mother. She said yes. And there was also a couple of things. And one of the great things I think about mediumship is that some of the things that are said, we do have to go away and check. It's homework. And then some of the things come in years later that you suddenly think, whoa. And one of the things she said was, she said, you had an aunt that liked to dabble. I said, well, dabble? Dabble? What's dabble? She said, a little bit of the hocus pocus. I don't know who that is. I remember saying to my mother, she said, it might be such and such or such and such. She had an aunt that used to do tea leaves and things like that, but we weren't sure. Until a number of years ago, and my aunt passed, and we cleared out the house, and hidden behind a unit was the 1934 or something like that book of fortune telling and everything. And I remember just going, whoa. And that was just one of those examples. And then she said at the end, and I'll never forget this, she said, in a few years you'll be doing this as well. There's not a Scooby a chance in anything in this world. But I went away, and I think this is where it comes back to the involvement of the spirit within. I started thinking about it. Started thinking about the reading. How did she know? How did she know? How did she get that information? And then very slowly, it almost started to bring those answers in of what I felt growing up what was happening. So that's where I took that interest. And from there on, that spirit within, I hope, over that time, has evolved. Because it certainly answered a number of questions I've had. What happens when we pass? What is out there, etc. So, as the years go on, Isa said there's these pivotal moments. One pivotal moment that for me changed that spirit within, and in such a good way. And it was a number of years ago, but I was asked to give a reading to a lady who was terminally ill and in palliative care, and she had a couple of weeks left to live. And I was asked along to give her a reading. And honestly, it was such a privilege. And it really, it got me here. And I thought about it for a long time afterwards. And it really, as I say, got me. Because I realised then the importance, the importance of it all. How it helps someone else in life and their journey. And that's the great thing. And that spirit within that we have, when we use that spirit within, and everybody will have their examples of that, but your journey of life. I spoke about that this morning briefly, and Frederick spoke about the joy of spirit, and also bringing it into that book of life. But it is a journey. It is a journey. We have one shot. So there's, that saying, there's no dress rehearsal. This is it. And in a way, we've got to make the best of it that we can. And it can be a tricky journey at times. Very tricky. It has its ups and has its downs. Remember my grandmother, you always used to say, this may be a Scottish expression, when it rains, it pours. And that's what she used to come out with. And in a way, I get that. Because there's times we have to draw on the strength of that spirit within. That can be difficult. Because when we do lose somebody, naturally, we have questions. We go through that journey of grief where there is no right nor wrong for that journey. That journey, we may cry, we may be angry. All these emotions come into that journey. But there's something about that spirit within that helps us through that, day by day. Do you know that, again, that saying, when somehow I found the strength? Where is that from? That is from that spirit. And we need that strength, because that strength carries us through life, but always evolving. Sure, if I asked everybody, remember back to who you were 10 years ago and who you are sitting today, would you say you've changed? It's had its good times, it's had its not so good times, but something has changed. And it's that evolvement and that journey we take in life. And that spirit within as well is affected by everybody else, even if it's for a moment. Back to my sayings today. But there is that saying that people come into our lives for a reason a season, and a lifetime. And that reason can be very momentarily, but somehow it helps, and vice versa. We just needed that little bit of help at that time, and vice versa. There are those that come into our life for a season. So it's a bit of a longer term, but again, it shapes that spirit to travel with us in life as we do them. And then at some point, the roads may part. But that was part of our journey. And then there are those that come into our lives for a lifetime. And let's face it, we've all met folk like that we think, oh, a lifetime? A lifetime? But mainly, those people that we have for a lifetime are those that stand by us through thick and thin. There are those that, when the going gets tough, we can rely on, we can call, and again, vice versa. These are the people that probably mostly shape our lives, that journey within. And again, that is something that I think is fabulous. Because as the journey goes on, and our journey goes on, there are probably people we're yet to meet. Whether it's that reason or a season. And we don't know, what tomorrow brings. So in a way, we are left in that unknown. What's happening, what's coming. But that spirit within we have is there, evolving, and will help us go through from past experience, because we're always learning. So when something happens, we will often go back to past experience. How did I deal with that last time? And it'll probably be differently this time, because all that has shaped us in many, many ways. I also think that spirit within, that spirit we've got here, is that spirit that can truly connect the spirit above. And when I speak about that, I speak about that in mediumship as well. Because we all know that head gets in the way at times. When we have that communication coming forward, that head will try and change a little bit of it, or kind of make sense of it. But what if we connect that spirit to spirit and try and take that head out of it? What if we take that time we would truly sit in that silence and connect with that spirit within? And that's where I take it into another little road here with the spirit within. Because through life, from our earliest days, we're kind of conditioned in a way. There's these introjected values that we have, and many of these come from our parents. So I will bring an example here, is that I always remember when an uncle had died, and we went off to see my aunt. And I remember my mother saying, "Don't mention your uncle." Why not? Don't mention, you'll just upset her. So as we look at that kind of scenario, it almost became that death was a bit of a taboo subject. In recent times, when people are ill, more and more they will pass in a hospital setting. So in a way, times have changed here. And it's kind of been put a little bit as if it's not talked about in many ways. And I think that's quite sad. Because as I said, it's very much a privilege to be with someone as they pass. To be part of that passing. And as they connect with their spirit. And that spirit within that then we journey forward with, again writes those chapters of the book. We can also connect with that spirit within, because sometimes I call it that inner child. And life is so busy nowadays, really is, that it's difficult to connect with us. So we take that time to listen to the spirit within. Just sit there. Just listen. Just call on that spirit within. And perhaps it'll just be like that little beating of a drum as it grows and grows and gets louder and louder. But when we connect with that spirit within, imagine if we ask that spirit within what it needs. What if we ask that spirit within what it needs from us? And that takes in the whole of the body, the mind, the spirit. And I bring that into also is that when we connect with spirit, how often do we ask them what they need from us? How often do we ask them what we need? Now there's a thing. There's something that, again, a bit of a pivotal moment. So I come back to these pivotal moments that help evolve that spirit within. And also to add, there can often be many crossroads in life as well. And these crossroads where we're not quite sure what to do next. Head saying one thing, in here saying another. For me, over time, the times I've listened to the head, 9 times out of 10 I've got it wrong. When I listen to hear, 9 times out of 10 I've got it completely right. Thank you. Any questions anyone like to? No? Yes? Oh, everyone's gone very quiet. Everyone's.
Have one down there.
As you were talking, I was thinking about the cultural differences in different countries around the world, and we seem to be so cerebral, so in the mind in the Western world,
Yeah.
and yet over in Asia and other areas, their spiritualism is much more important. Spiritualism as in their structured religion, not as in their absolute.
Yeah. And do you mean in there like the
It's part of
concept
their
of
lives.
dying and
It's
grief
always part of
and
their life and how
yeah.
they deal with the dying and how they deal with the sick.
yeah.
Things like that.
And we're funny enough we
It's
were
almost
talking.
like we're behind.
Yes, I mean, in a way, you know, and we're moving into it a little bit more, but I remember when I was young, and of course, like many folk, you went to a funeral and it was, you were wearing black, no matter what. It was hymns. It was, in the Scottish words, a dour occasion, which means it was really quite depressing. But as time moves on, and I think the thing I like about it is that we're starting to realise that with the sadness, there's a celebration of life. You know, we're celebrating somebody's life, that journey, that joy of their spirit that was spoken about earlier. And it is, other cultures do it so differently. And just to add to that as well, I mean, I remember a number of years ago, and I did this charity trek, and it was over, I was going to say 10 years, it was 10 days, and we went through Jordan and Petra with the Bedouin tribe. And we camped out overnight. They lived every day just in that day. And their connection with the spirit, with nature, it was something else. And I remember thinking again, maybe another pivotal moment here that wasn't that nice. It's just their way of life. I don't know if I've answered your question or not.
I think we agree.
That's fine. Well, I like agreeing, yeah. I like agreeing. Anyone?
You mentioned in your lovely talk about asking spirit what we might do for them. Have you asked?
Yes.
Did they say anything you can share with us that was for you?
Yes. And I'll go back with an example here because I love doing my mediumship. But there came a point a few years ago when my mother took ill. And my mother had dementia, and I moved back into the family home to look after her. But I still had this plan, I was going to try and do everything else here. And I remember connecting with that spirit within and said, you need to slow down, you need to slow down. I didn't listen. Thought, no, guys, I'll be okay, guys. And it was, I can't remember what month it was, but I remember parking my car and walking down to the Conan Doyle Centre in Edinburgh because I was about to do 3 readings. I can't remember much about it, but one moment I was walking, one moment I was down. And I broke my ankle. And I remember, and this was for me later, sending that thought up, and they said, well, you didn't listen to us. I remember thinking, Strangely enough, the 3 folk that were having the reading never came back, so must have thought if you never saw that coming. But that was my example because they were saying, well, you've not listened. What do you want us to do? How have we got to make you listen? So that was mine. Anybody else? Lawrence, you always come in with a question. I'm just allowing you this.
Okay. Really interesting. Thank you, Ewan. And it was so nice to hear once that you weren't surrounded by spirit when you were a child. That makes, because we all think, if you weren't surrounded by spirit when you're a child, you're not a medium, sort of thing. So it's really nice to hear that. What would be your advice to anybody who is thinking or unsure, or there's just something impinging on their awareness and they're not quite sure what's going on? What practical things could they do?
Run a mile.
To your local church.
Run a mile. No, I often say, if it's something that you feel in here again, that it's something that you should follow. That spirit within calling again, follow it. Take your time. And that awareness, I always go back to the circle and development in the circle. And I love going back to that as well because it's that grounding, it just takes me back and just settles me down. But allowing that awareness to grow within the development circle. So there's that. I've often seen a number of folk who, it's almost that excitement, and it's an excitement working with spirit, but I would always say take your time as well. There's no fast route. I'm 55 and almost 55, and I started when I was 18, 19. And I have tried to take my time, but spirit will direct us. Mm-hmm.
No, mine's the opposite. My spirit within the gut feeling, excuse me, screams at me.
Mm.
So mine's very different. I get a lot of premonitions. I know when my children are going to be poorly. I know when somebody's going to walk out from a car. And I did touch base with Lawrence on this yesterday. The feeling that they put on me as a warning is so much worse than the event. And I ask, okay, I'm listening. Can you take it off me? Is there a way that you can recommend that I can get them to reduce it? Because asking isn't working.
Mm-hmm. Connect from that spirit within to the spirit above and ask them. You know, when we connect to them and to say, do you know, I know you give me this, but I'm not, it's too much. It's too much. And allow them to work with you. It's back to what I said earlier about what we need from spirit and what spirit needs from us. So it's asking them just to reduce that a little and get back to me and let me know. I think I saw another hand, but I'm not sure.
So you said just now that it started when you were 18?
Yes,
Is it?
18, 19. It was a
Yeah.
couple of years after my
So
father
how
died.
come then would it come to some people so early and maybe then to some so late? Is there, you got an answer to that? Is there any kind of...
I think in the scheme of things, there's no such thing as coincidence. And whatever took me into that at that point was the time that perhaps Spirit said, we are ready to work with me. And it came about at that time. Perhaps earlier wasn't the time. I mean, there was things going on that I couldn't make sense of, but as I said earlier, I was not growing up waking up and seeing a dead person in the corner or things like that. That wasn't happening. Now on the odd occasion I wake up during the night and there's a person at the corner of the room, but that's...
You know, like Frederick said that you've always got one foot in and one foot out,
Yeah.
if you like.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems that very different, obviously, for different people. Whereas such an early age, you see that, or for others, maybe not at all, or for others later. Just wondered, I mean, you know, I don't even know what that question is.
My answer to that is it was whoever in Spirit decided that was the time that was right for me. And I truly believe that. And I don't think I can answer that in any other way, to
Is
be
there a
honest.
time where it was left alone, maybe, where you didn't from an early age, or was it always continued consistently throughout your life?
There was something there that sat, these feelings, the odd feelings that something wasn't right, as you were saying as well, and didn't, or feel edgy, or that, almost like that little premonition, and that would happen as well. And as I say, I always felt there was somebody there. There was folk there, but I couldn't see them.
So did that come later?
That was still early. That was through childhood. It was felt, oh, there is somebody there. What's that? But I couldn't see them. Couldn't see them. But for me, that age, I think, was when Spirit decided, okay, we'll give him a try. We'll work with him, see how he does. And it's been a good journey. again, it's had its ups and downs. I think everybody would realise we do have in that spiritual journey. But all in all, and touch wood, if I'm still here in 20, 30 years, I hope. He said it's a cough. Thanks. 5 years, 10 years, that I can still do what I'm doing. And I think I'm about to lose my voice there or whatever they're doing, but I think Spirit are also saying to me it's time to sit down. Thank you.
Thank you, Ewan. Marvelous, isn't it? Just to hear these different views on mediumship, views on spiritualism and things. And the other eye just stand up next to me. Can you see him?
Yeah.
Thank
That
God.
means I'm not in spirit.
Thank God. I was just worried for a moment.
So, ladies and gentlemen, this afternoon we started in lovely Denmark. For those of you who haven't been to Denmark, I can assure you it's a beautiful country. We started in Denmark, and now we're going back to Denmark. Welcome, Jack. He's going to speak about healing.
Yes. You can start now.
At 3:15.
Pardon?
At 3:15.
Oh, sorry. It's a short wee break.
You can't get the chairman. So you
Sorry.
have a little break.
Back in here, 3:15. I thought you were going to start to speak now.
No, it's just feeling no problem.
Well done.
It nearly got knocked over.
You can have it first. Just
Considering he bought it home like they do,
Okay, thank you. Cheers. I've never doubted very much now. Maybe it's an age thing, I don't know. Overthinking used to do it. And now it's almost like taking each day so yeah, there are these start with
People often smoking. That's really interesting. Do you mind if I play some Scooby-Doo or is it not that cool? So what is your topic, Jack? Healing?
The healing within the within mediumship.
I'm using slightly.
Yes. The four spiritualists.
Promise I'm not going to sing.
If you do, I will promise.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen. It's time for another speaker to speak. So as I said before, we started in Denmark this afternoon and we traveled the whole way to Sweden. Then we traveled even far to Scotland and now we're back to Denmark. So there must have been something we missed in Denmark. So by saying that, I'm welcoming Jack from Denmark to speak about healing within mediumship.
Thank you, Frederick. And as you're probably aware, Denmark was the land of Vikings, a little bit in Sweden and Norway as well. But that's a journey, you know. Go around Scotland, UK and things, just like the Vikings. So we're just back here. I kind of have a helmet as well, don't I? But that's another story. But ladies and gentlemen, what I would like to talk to you about is the healing within the evidential mediumship. And you might sit there and think, what is that about? Let me give you a little example. Can I borrow you a little bit?
Of course.
Okay. So I can give Frederick some healing. Yeah?
I'm going to spare
Yes. Yes. and Frederick, while I'm healing you here, I'm aware of your mum here, you know. And your mom is talking to you here about, how proud she is of you. But she is telling you here that all the amount of money you spend on your hairdresser, you should better give that to your medium. You understand that? Because he needs it as well. The money, not the hairdresser. Okay. No, that's not really evidential mediumship, is it? It's not or healing within. It's not that what we're talking about. But what I want to talk about is that healing within that evidential mediumship. That healing that can come to both sides of life. Within that house we can build through the evidence, through the connection with spirit, through the presence of spirit that we create through our mediumship. Just to give you a little background for why I want to talk about this. When I started 30 odd years ago in my spiritual journey, I started as a healer. Just a healer. Isn't that amazing? I know there's several healers here. Never say just a healer. Healing is the most powerful act in mediumship, isn't it? And that's why to me it's so important to have that aspect with us in each type of mediumship we are doing. What I wasn't aware of in my early years was when I was going in doing my healing, I actually drifted into a trance state. I didn't know anything about trance at that time, but I drifted into that trance state. And I've after done that for 4 or 5 years, something, I met a tutor that picked me out in a group and said, "Oh, Jack, can I do a little example with you?" And she talked me into this trance state. I was like, "Oh, I know this." I can see Mark sitting with nodding, similar experience, yes. I was, this is familiar to me. And spirit there. Wow, I never thought of it. Because the lack of knowledge. But the healing was doing over the years was amazing, according to my clients. I didn't really experience it. But what happened then? I started I met the evidential mediumship, and for a start I thought, oh, what is this for a bunch of weird things? Looking at my language. What is this for a bunch of weird things? And I joined a summer school in Denmark that was about mediumship. At that time, I really didn't know what mediumship meant. I love to meditate. Meditate. And heard somebody talking about these summer schools. They had some beautiful meditations there. Oh, I'm booking a week there. Isn't that lovely? Going to sit, meditate on the beach for a whole week. And there was a tutor there. I picked his group because there was something with healing with him, that he was specialized in healing. And when we get together in the class, the first exercise, he started out, okay, now you're going to make a link with spirit. You're going to talk to the dead. I was like, okay, I'm out. Bye. But something made me stay there. Okay, I'll just try to have this experience. And I was sitting together, but I wasn't that old at that time, but a lady that was a bit younger than me. I was just like, how is this gonna work? I know nothing about spirit. I know nothing about anything. I know how to heal. But the case is, this just came to me and said, just tell her what's on your mind. I just asked, oh, you know, the young lady, I am aware of, I was creating a story, I'm aware of here that your mom's sister that passed to spirit 3 months ago, and so and so, and I know she wear glasses, but it was only Windows glasses in them because she just used them for blah blah blah. And she's talking about all the jewelry boxes and blah 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 blah. I was just chatting away, and sometimes I can have quite a good imagination. What shocked me was when the exercise was over. I didn't have any response through this exercise. This young lady just looked at me. She just started going down her chin. And she said, "You're so precise in describing my mom's sister. Died 3 months ago. I have several bags of her glasses with the window glass in. I have all the jewelry in the boxes I'm going through." I was like, what the is this? So I became curious. And I started to look more into the evidential part of the mediumship and realized that within that evidence, with that evidence, we can build that room, build that space that allow that healing to come forward. Not even trying to bring the healing, but just accepting. If I'm working my mediumship, if I'm working honest and truly with my mediumship, and delivering those evidence, the healing can be in there. And again, can we do that every time? Probably not. I can't. But I'm becoming better and better at it because it has been a focus point for me. And I was mentioning different types of mediums before. We already talked a little bit about the trance mediumship, the healing mediumship. We also have the philosophical mediumship, and then we have the evidential mediumship. I believe that the healing can be within all of it. But for me, or today, it is the evidential mediumship I'll focus on. And sometimes we maybe have to realize that it's not always the nearest and the dearest that's coming forward to us. Sometimes it's maybe not even those we have loved. Maybe sometimes it's someone we don't really want to hear from because they haven't done any good to us. Maybe the ones that only have done bad to us. But thinking about, ladies and gentlemen, when they're coming through proving themselves, I've heard sometimes, oh, that's an evil spirit. I don't believe so. I don't believe in evil spirit. But I believe in, I think was mentioned a little bit in the trance demonstration yesterday, but I believe in that whatever we do, whatever we are in this physical world, that's a part, and our deeds we are doing here in our physical life, that is a part of our physical life. When we're going home to God, when we're going to spirit, leaving this physical body, all that is left behind here. We don't carry that away. We're having a learning experience for it, certainly, but I don't believe that we're carrying that around. So even though some people have done bad or what we maybe would phrase as evil deeds here on earth, doesn't mean it's an evil spirit. Maybe a spirit that needs a bit of healing. And you know what, ladies and gentlemen? As mediums, we have a great responsibility. We have a great responsibility both to spirit as well as to people here in front of us. And we're dealing with people's life. And that's why it's important to me, and I know Lola touched a bit on it in her too. It's important to me to separate what is psychic and what is mediumship. You may be aware, but with the psychic, it's a great craft. It's a great tool to counseling. But it has nothing to do with spirit, nothing to do with mediumship as such. To me, working with spirit is very important to me that what I give to you is coming from spirit. Sometimes I misunderstand a little bit of it. I believe we all do when we're working. It's like this translation from that energy into words. Sometimes we choose the wrong words. Doesn't mean it's wrong what we say. We just phrase it slightly wrong. But if we are truthful to spirit, we should stay with spirit. Laura was touching this as well with, within my mediumship I can do a bit of psychic. Yeah, we can. It can work perfectly fine. Personally, I don't like it. And let me explain you why. Because to me, when we are working with our mediumship, I have a background as a builder. Okay? To me, working with mediumship, working with the evidence is building bricks. It's the bricks where we can build that house of healing. Brick by brick we create the walls. Yeah? Just like building a house. Beside from that, to build a proper solid wall, we need a proper solid foundation, don't we? That foundation is our connection with spirit as mediums. If we work on building that foundation, we have solid foundation, we bring the evidence to build the wall. And by bringing those, having that close connection, building those walls through the evidence given from spirit, we can bring forward the presence of spirit as well. That will make the roof on the house. So in that, we have created a house wherein we have our client or our recipient, we have spirit, and we have the spirit, a presence of spirit. And in that house, that's where the healing can go in. Not only for the recipient, but also from the one from spirit. Yeah. And think about if whilst we are working on mediumship, I just put a little bit psychic in here, a little bit psychic in there. We can put some fragile bricks in the walls. We can even move a little bit back from spirit because our awareness is going more to the sitter to put a little psychic in instead of being the spirit. That means that the foundation might be a little bit wobbly. And sometimes it can actually happen that we won't have that roof on because we don't bring the presence of spirit. So that's why it's important for me to talk about this healing, to have that fully healing to both sides of life. We can create that through our mediumship. Through being honest as a medium when we do. Not saying it's wrong to do it, I'm just saying, to me it takes a little bit away from the beauty in mediumship. And what I find amazing is when we have built this house, it's kind of a magical house where magic happens, all kind of things. I've even expired things flying through the room because the client threw it at me, but that's another story. But trust me, it was coming out of an effect because the client had a healing going on in that moment. And to me, if I'm getting a little bit wrong from spirit, yeah, that's okay. Sometimes can maybe look me not as good as medium. That's okay. I can live with that because I know that when I'm honest in my mediumship, I know spirit will be there for me. I know spirit will be there for my clients and my recipients. And then again, we can look at what kind of evidence are we going to bring then. I think we can analyze this different kind of evidence. We have the factual evidence. We have the name, the addresses, the phone numbers, and all these things. I can tell you they're great to get as a medium. Makes you look really good. It does, doesn't it? Oh, I don't have your file here. His name is Carl and his phone number is so and so, and it tells me your account number so and so, and quite factual. And I can tell you, when I started my early years within the mediumship, I felt spirit. I felt them to a way where I was like, go away. And then going on course at the college and on places, and everybody else was talking about, oh, I see so and so, I hear so and so. I was like, oh, what about me? I'm just feeling them. I'm just feeling them. Oh, sorry for me. I want to hear, I want to see. So I said to Spirit, come on guys, I want you to write on the walls for me. Yeah? My thought was, write on the walls, but the names, phone numbers, only things. I put focus on it. First time over 6 months, every time I work, write on the wall for me. Write on the wall for me. I can tell you, I managed it to happen. And what happened was, I was sitting in Folkestone doing a sitting for a lady that had lost her husband. And I was saying, okay, giving different kind of evidence, la 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 la. And then I said to a gentleman, now I want you to write on the wall for me. And as I was staring, glancing at the wall, the handwriting just came up. And I just told her what was written on the wall. It was amazing factual evidence. Yes, I'm a brilliant medium, aren't I? I'm a star, I'm a superstar, I'm going all the big theaters. But and I found different ways to get this really factual evidence. But after a while, I realized, where's my connection with Spirit? Because I've been so focused on bringing this factual evidence that I kind of really didn't feel Spirit anymore. I managed to hear Spirit clear. All these things. Not that I regret I got through these things, but because all are part of my mediumship today. But I got to a certain state where I had to go back and say, I need to feel you again. Because something is missing in my mediumship. Something is missing in these connections. That's the power of the healing. The power of the healing that for me should be there. And how to bring that in? Yeah, different kind of evidence. Beside from the factual evidence, we have the emotional evidence, haven't we? The expression of the emotions from Spirit. The emotion touched from Spirit to the client. We have the mental evidence. And we have the spiritual evidence that sometimes can be a little bit fluffy, can't they? But I can tell you, none of them can stand on their own. The combination of these things is the strong building bricks. And through working with the evidence, I can trust you, for those of you that are developing or working as mediums, that would strengthen your bond with Spirit. Because the only way to get that evidence from Spirit is to be with Spirit. Yeah. Yes. And then you can maybe sit there with the thought of, but when do we know we have built this room for healing? When do we know we have built this house for healing? Sometimes we really don't know. Sometimes it's just a feeling. Sometimes the healing is just isn't happening before the client have left. Some days after, they realize some of the things that have come in there. Going, oh wow, and that relief. I was touching a little bit on it. Sometimes we can have evidence brought forward that we really don't know about. I know that for myself, and that probably have been some of the strongest evidence I ever have had. I tell you, I have a biological grandfather I've never known, never met, never seen a picture of him. He was not to talk about in the family. I had another grandfather that obviously not was my biological, that I loved dearly. But I started getting messages from mediums from my biological grandfather. I can't take that, I can't take that, I can't take that. But the funny thing was, he was quite a stubborn guy, obviously, because he kept coming through different mediums. Both in Denmark and over here and at the college, and from mediums around the world, actually. Keep coming back with the same pieces of evidence that I didn't know anything about. In the end, I probably rejected him in 10 or 15 times, I don't know how many times. But then I said, now I'm getting curious, now I need to know a bit more. So I said, yeah, I've heard that before. I've heard that before. And then started adding more and more. And this has been going on over, I guess, 10 years or something. Bits of evidence coming from here and there about my biological grandfather. And I couldn't confirm any of it because nobody in the family actually knew anything about him. Very little. And my grandma don't talk. What happens then is after my grandma passed, I started to talk to my parents about this. And my mom started, she could confirm a little bit, but my father joined in and said, nah, that's totally wrong, and that is not. I was like, okay, so all this, I've got through all this, that's just weird things. But then my dad's cousin did some family investigation, and that brought forward confirmation of all the things I've been given. All the things I've been given from my grandfather. Sorry. I can tell you that healing is still going on to both sides. But the case is, all these mediums as faithful spirits, they couldn't go on a psychic link because I knew nothing. They brought the evidence from spirits. I know I rejected it. I was a naughty boy, kind of. But in the end, we got there. It's not ideal to wait 10 years to get confirmed the communication that is coming through. But if we can accept to be faithful and truthful to spirits, allow them to have a voice and not interfering, I can tell you, spirit will be happy. You will be happy. And through that we can make a difference. We can maybe even change the world. And maybe realize, as Lola mentioned, that we all are part of God here in physical life, as well as when we're in spirits. And to me, the mediumship is one of the big pillars within spiritualism, as a movement, as a religion. Another big pillar is the philosophy. And then, of course, we have the healing that's kind of embrace it all. But think about, if we are weakening these pillars, how stable is our movement? How stable is our religion? So think about, where do we want spiritualism to go forward? It was mentioned in the reading this morning of Emma Harding Brayton, 150 years ago. she talked about the same things. I know others have talked about it 30 years ago, 20 years ago, 10 years ago. It seems like things keep coming up. But I believe that we as mediums, as developing mediums, as healers, as inspirers, work with honesty, being truthful to spirit. I believe our religion, I believe our movement have a future and have a great future. But as mentioned earlier as well, if you're not standing with it, what do we have? How should we bring new people in, especially the youngers today? They're all online, they're all everywhere, but they're also quite critical, aren't they? I believe many of you have children, have youngsters. They question everything, aren't they? And they will question our religion, our movement. So to me, it's just important, really important, that we stay with what we are. We keep our pillar strong. Otherwise, all we have left is a pillow to sleep on. Okay. So, yeah. Go. So, I'll try to round it up here. Round up here. So let's respect. Remember the respect for spirit, as well as the respect for humankind, and the connection between the two worlds. And being honest. It's okay that sometimes our connection is not as strong for several reasons. Maybe we have had a stressful day. Maybe we have had a bad stomach. Maybe we are in pain. That will all influence in our connection with spirit. It will, of course it will. But if we are truthful to spirit, spirit will be truthful to us. And they will walk with us. They will support us in our development. They will support us in our daily life if we allow them. And trust me, if we allow spirit to be there, there will be. If we allow spirit to have a voice, they will give the voice. And as Frederick mentioned, times where we don't need the translation of the power. And I believe that's the moment when we have built this house where magic happens. Because that is a magical moment where that healing is taking place. To both us here in the physical world as well as those that we love and remember in spirit. So I will leave you with these words, hopefully a little inspiration, and if any questions, please.
How can you tell the difference between what is psychic and what's from spirit?
For myself, when I'm working, I'm aware of where my attention is. If I'm working psychic with you, I will have my attention on you and your energy. If I'm working with your loved ones, I don't care about you. Don't take me wrong, but I don't care about you, other than have a yes or no. Do you understand what's coming from spirit? So I'll put my attention to spirit.
It doesn't interfere in any way? They don't clash?
No. It's about now you're talking to me. If you're turning around and talk to Matt, I'm out of the way. To explain simply, you understand that? So for me, that's kind of easy to separate, but that's only because I've been working with it. And sometimes we had a chat on the Wednesday about this, about the difference. If we're saying, oh, I don't want to work with psychic, I only want to work with mediumship. But if you never try to work with the psychic, how do you know the difference? Yeah. So it's in our development, in our journey through building our mediumship, it's important that we look at the psychic part as well, because that's the way we are getting to know the different, learn the different. And a recipient, sometimes we can feel it. I can myself, I know. Often we will be able to feel the presence of spirit, but I can tell you sometimes if somebody is tapping in the psychic on me, it feels like somebody within my energy. I can feel it in my energy. I'm like, whoa, don't do that. I don't want that. So if we are a little bit sensitive and a little bit aware of it, sometimes we can actually feel it. Sometimes it feels quite physical on my body. And it's actually quite unpleasant. What we have to remember here is, bring me to another, what we have to remember, a good psychic can read our energy, and within our energy field, there is all about our life. There's a full diary of our life, but there are also all the memories we have of our loved one that has gone to spirit. So tapping into our energy, a good psychic can say, oh, I can see you, mom, standing behind you. And think about that phrase. Often when the mediums are using that phrase, they're reading the energy of the recipient, because they have the attention in your energy. I don't know about yours, but I know when I work with spirit, spirit is not down there, they're here because it's here I'm talking with them.
But I presume it varies with different mediums.
It does, definitely, and we are all different. But the case is a good psychic can read your energy, read your memories of your loved ones, can describe your loved ones. That's evidence for them being a good psychic. But through that, they can't build this healing house I'm talking about, because spirit is not involved. And maybe spirits are partly involved and partly on psychic. It will be a little bit wobbly then. Maybe we won't have the roof on then. Yeah? Understand that? When I put it that way. So it's practice as a medium, as a psychic. It's a practice. It's a learning process to where do I get the information from. We are using the same senses, our ability to see, hear, feel, taste and smell spiritual energies. But we can do it on you as a human being, but we can have that interaction with the spirit world as well. I hope that answered.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
This is a question for both you and Frederick.
Yeah.
I may have the answer in my head already, but I'm just going to clarify it. Frederick basically said that there's no barriers within mediumship, whatever country you're in or whatever. You're a Dane, Frederick is Swedish, and you're here in England getting messages. Are they coming to you in English? Are they coming to you in Danish? Or are they coming to you in Swedish?
Sign language.
Yeah. I'm mostly getting mine in Russian, but that. No. No. The case is, I know many people think spirit is coming here. Rah, 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 rah. They're not really. They're not really, and we have to look at the faculties within the way we're using our senses. Spirit is coming with an energy. They're not coming talking to us, not coming showing us a picture. They're coming with an energy, and we use our senses, our ability to see, hear, and feel them, taste and smell what they bring through. I've learned not to say taste and smell them, but what they bring through. And in that we are translating that energy into words that hopefully will be understood. And that's a part of the development as a medium, to learn to put the right words on.
Well, that's what you said earlier.
Yeah.
About translating the messages.
Yeah. Simply translating that energy into words. It's slightly different from when Mark is doing a trance demonstration. He allow his guide to use his voice box. There will be can be a bit of interference still, but it's more direct talk from his guide. But when we are working with the evidential, we are through our conscious mind creating the words that we're giving to our recipient or our clients. So in that, I usually say it's a little bit Google Translate. We all know Google Translate, doesn't we? Most of the time it works perfectly fine, and sometimes you just think, what is that? And that's mediumship, basically. And I said, no medium will never be 100%. I don't believe that's a possibility. Can we get to 90%? We're good. So there's always a bit of interference with the medium. There's can be a little misunderstanding in that translation. Sometimes it's just because we are phrasing different, and sometimes we can say one thing, but we use different words that the recipient would. So the recipient would say no. Then we can say exactly the same thing with different words. Oh yes, that's just point on. But I said exactly the same as I did before. Just use different words. So it's this. When we're working with mediumship, it is really this connection between two worlds, and with that third part as a medium. I don't want to call it a communication triangle there, but that can happen within that healing house as well. But we need all that to create that moment, that magical moment.
Thank you.
So it is that translation from energy into words. Okay?
Thank you.
Okay. Yes.
What did you mean earlier when you said people suffer?
Oh, it's like, where's the cat? No. No, it can. To me, sometimes can feel like a cat is scratching me. It's just this uncomfortable feeling, and we'll probably all feel it slightly different. But it's just this awareness of, oh, somebody is within my energy and searching for something.
Can they take it away from you?
Basically, yes, I can. Okay, without being too technical, but we have this energy of our own, this magnetic field. We can work with that ourselves. We can expand it where we are expanding our awareness. That's basically what we are doing when we're working psychic or mediumistic. We are expanding, like blowing up a balloon. But we can also bring close. And you all know what happens with a balloon when you take out the air out. It's been quite hard to break. And when we bring in our energy totally close to ourselves, it's simple, not always easy, can take a bit of practice. But when we bring it all the way out in there, it can be really hard for a psychic to get through it because it becomes quite a hard shell. So yeah, we can, but sometimes it takes a little bit of practice. I don't know, understanding how our own energy field is working. Okay. Anyone else? Okay.
So thank you very much, Jack, for your wonderful talk. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have another short break before our journey continues back to Poole from Denmark. So 10 minutes pause, then we're back in here again. Thank you.
Probably be the beach show. We went down and met the city and
Trance or something, just a natter. A natter with Mark. Well, I'll say it's more of a natter than a top. It'll be what it'll be. It's always tomorrow.
If tomorrow never comes.
Look what's happened, they've all gone home now. That's alright. You know, it's the Ken Dodd slot. They're just going to give me the keys and let me carry on. Funny when I was in Liverpool, was it last year? I went to see the grave of Silver Black. Oh, did you? Ken Dodd's just... said it's the one person I'd love to have gone and seen work, and I never did, was Ken Dodd. I'd have loved to, because people used to just say they just use tandem and theatre keys and so many. So trance or something. We were talking about trance and bringing all the aspects of what people have talked to together. So just going to talk about his passion.
I don't know, I want to say that.
Why don't they just say, and he's going to talk about trance. Trance.
Viewing?
That wasn't me.
Oh, really?
What wasn't you?
What?
What's the
In
matter?
fact, yes, I've had bloody kids round all day.
Why is there bits all over the floor?
Paper.
Oh,
Not anything.
you lucky pug.
Not sweets of the Fredericks.
Yes, it is. Frederick. I take it back. So you've got to take it half 7. Hang around.
I'm ready. I'm ready.
So we can get a table corner. Corner table.
That's right.
Really well.
Yes, no, I think it's really, really nice. It's been lovely. Fascinating listening. Which is why everything I'm talking about keeps changing every 5 minutes. There's a feel different things going and going, oh, let's talk about, we should talk about that, oh, we should pick that up. And so we'll wait and see what happens when it actually happens.
You've forgotten the leadership of Jesus Christ because that's gone down on our charity application.
What?
You've forgotten the leadership of Jesus Christ because that's part of our charity application.
But that's the SNU ones that are tearing. Just on video.
And microphone. Hi everybody.
That's it.
Did we talk about it? This is Florida
No,
all
this
over
is
again.
Florida all over again. Yeah. Oh dear.
We did Christmas Eve service in 2020. And of course there's still a load of restrictions knocking about. So we couldn't sing indoors. But it's Christmas Eve and we want to do carols. So we did the service in here and then we did carols out in the car park. And I took the laptop out so we could live stream the carols. Didn't realise I'd left the streaming gear on in here. Mark, Mickey and myself came back in here and we just started going blah, 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 blah.
And the next minute, Mickey's phone's
Still
stinging,
available on.
and Maurice in America goes, do you realise we can still hear what you're talking about? I mean, luckily we hadn't got onto anything salacious.
be like somebody from Florida to tell us that, yeah, that we're still well. Oh my God. The joys of the virtual world.
They're either all in the loo or they've all gone. I know a few have gone. Oh, we said 15:15, didn't we? So, it's toilet moments. But if it wasn't scratched before, it is now. Oh dear, I'm just the same. No, give them a...
Now, can I just say that
Oh, God,
yeah,
go on.
I've been making notes, but I put the heart before I wrote your name.
Oh, bless you. Oh dear.
Really nice.
Well, can you see that?
Oh God, it's a bit of
No. Don't.
That's better.
That's better.
Nice to straighten up. Good afternoon again. And to all those watching online as well. So a little earlier I asked Mark what he was going to speak about, and Mark and his guys have had this conversation, and the title has changed so many times in the last few minutes. I've got no idea, but you did say it was going to be something about trans.
Trance and all sorts.
Trans and all sorts. So
All sorts.
with this talk on trans and all
All
sorts,
sorts.
Mr. Mark Stone.
Lovely. Thank you, everyone. The reason it's all sorts is that as this weekend has progressed, so many things have interlinked. So many things that even happened before the weekend that came to light in our conversations as fellow colleagues and tutors. So many things that have come within this morning's service and the day's talks have all linked in together. If you've noticed, if you've been following, there's this thread that runs through it all. And these things were things that started before we even arrived here. And so for me, what I found so fascinating about today, I love listening to people's journeys of mediumship, of where they've come from, where they've, and who they've experienced in their mediumship. And one of the things that today's brought home to me especially, and I'm sure to Ewan and Lawrence and those of you here in the room and many of you may be at home, is how lucky we are to have what we have here in the UK with spiritualism. Because I'm one of these mediums that were born and raised a spiritualist. So I was one of these kids that saw and said things as a child that used to freak people out. But because I was born into a spiritualist household that understood spirit, it was never made an issue of. So it was neither hushed up nor encouraged. It was just accepted. And from a child, I was taken to spiritualist church as part of daily life. And sitting here today and listening to where people are having to forge their way to even be seen and heard as mediums is remarkable. And how much we take for granted that there's always going to be a church near us. Whereas for many and many people that join us online, there isn't a church at all. And so even the technology that we now have, and even through that terrible time that we had with COVID, it pushed us worldwide in technology. So in a way, and I said to Lawrence when we had our first services in March of 2020. I said, isn't it interesting how something that stopped us being able to be together has made us reach even further? And that we've been able to reach out using technology, using the ability to reach other places, to other people, to reach out and let people know that where they may have been thinking, well, am I the only one that thinks this, believes this, or knows this, that now they know they're not alone. So again, another form of communication. For mediumship is all about that. It's all about communication. And because of my upbringing in spiritualism, it's meant I've seen a lot over the years, which I'm privileged to have seen, and people to have met. And I found it fascinating listening the questions that we've had today. Picking up on Mark's question from earlier about when people come into it, are they born into it? Why does it come later for others? We have sometimes in spiritualism beliefs and phrases that are used, such as mediums are born and not made, is a phrase that is bandied around a lot in our movement and has been over the years. And it's often used in a way that you either are or you aren't a medium. Now, everyone can have an opinion on that. But my opinion when it comes to these things is that we are born with innate abilities, but in all different facets of life. Many people can play a piano, but it doesn't mean everyone's going to be a concert pianist. Many people can sing, but it doesn't mean many people will become an opera singer or fill the Wembley Arena twice over, whatever. So there are natural abilities that lie within us that may be of the spiritual nature, and they can be learned and enhanced as well as be natural and raw. And so it depends on what your journey is and what it is that brings you into this movement and why. One of the people that I talk about was a lady I met many years ago, a lady called Evelyn Lloyd. And she was a lady from London way, and she was a devout C of E Christian, married all of her life to her childhood sweetheart husband, and in her 70s her husband passed away. And understandably, that lifelong partner, having passed, left her bereft and not knowing what was there in her life. And she went on a search to find what happens after death. So in her 70s, never having considered or thought of spiritualism at all, she walked into a spiritualist church in the hope that she would get evidence of her husband's survival after death. And she did. And at 72, she became interested in spiritualism. And right up until her 92nd birthday, she was a demonstrating medium. So if anyone says, I'm too old and I've left it too late, look at all of us. We're still going and we'll keep going. And I say that as someone who's been on a platform for 33 years, so I'm allowed to say that. But what I find is fascinating is that this journey of spiritualism, of understanding, and this connection to the spirit world, and this lovely phrase, a foot in either world, a part of us that is always part of the spirit world. You see, the philosophy of spiritualism is something that we are sometimes seeing disappearing, and trance mediumship as well, which I want to talk about predominantly, is something that people seem to pull away from in certain ways. You see, a lot of people are fascinated by mediumship, but mediumship in itself may not always be what is needed. It may serve a need and a purpose in the moment. It may start to bring that healing process that Jack talked about. It may start us on that journey that Frederick and Ewan talked about, of going within, of starting to look at who am I, not the body, but who am I within. But it is within the philosophy and the understanding that we start to understand all life together. Our movement of spiritualism is only one way in which the spirit world expresses itself. The spirit world will often say, your spiritualism, because it is not necessarily the creation of the other world. We created the ism. We created the banding together to promote the voice of the spirit world, inspired by the other world. So this is why you hear people talk about modern spiritualism that began in 1848. The spirit world didn't begin in 1848, ladies and gentlemen. The spirit world, spirit contact, spirit influence has existed in every aspect of life, in every religion and belief and understanding and spirituality. There is the influence of the spirit world. It is not purely the domain of spiritualism. Spiritualism is one way, not the only way. And we must understand that those that we speak to in the other world are of many beliefs and understandings of life. That there is many, many different opinions and beliefs that come through. And my friend who I work with in the trance state, he tries to talk about this idea of the divine and the spirit world and God, and tries to explain it in ways so that people can understand there is a unity in all belief. So he said, if you want to imagine that the divine, that God, that infinite power, that great mind, call it whatever you will, is like the sun. The sun shines down. And if you imagine a beautiful stained glass window, as the sun shines through it, it is tinted by the colours in the window. It is still the same light that shines through, but it is coloured by what it passes through. And so as the power of the divine and of the spirit works through us, we colour it by our own experience, mind and knowledge. So this is why when we look at our movement, it is so important to realise we are, and it has been said today, a movement of three thinking. That we are able to question, as Lola said, to be able to say, what is God to me? What is life about? And not be told how to live life, but to be told, how do you think you should live your life? To be able to move into the power of the other world and start to become aware of all of those people who work with you. And you see, when we talk about this unfoldment, and there was that lovely this morning when we were talking about the patient path and taking time. Everybody, because of the way the world is, everybody wants everything yesterday. There is a pressure by people. Instant tea, instant coffee, instant mediumship. Going back, and this is when I say to you, I'm a bit old school. I was brought up around the old school mediums, where you sat in circle, and you sat in circle, and you sat in circle, year in, year out, year in, year out, until you were told by someone who knew better than you that now was time that you did more and went further. And you were given that strength and understanding, and that you realised that it was a longer journey than just a few weeks. It was more than just doing 1 or 2 courses and then you're out there in the world. But it was a time to dedicate yourself to a lifelong vocation of understanding. And it didn't matter whether you were ever going to be a medium on a platform or a healer in a church or a reader. It wasn't about that. It was about finding out who is there with you in the other world and how they wish you to work with them and vice versa. Like I said, have you asked the spirit world? During lockdown, I did a few podcasts with a friend who did a podcast interviewing different mediums. And after one of the podcasts, somebody emailed me and said that she'd had a problem in her development, in her mediumship, and she didn't know who to ask, and she just listened to the podcast and thought she'd get in touch. And she said to me, she said, I'm in a real quandary about my mediumship and my journey. And I wanted to ask someone who didn't know me, and I could just ask for an honest answer. And I said, well, I'll help if I can. And she said, well, I recently went to a demonstration at a church, and a medium came to me, and they told me that Spirit said, you need to slow down and do less and give more time to certain things. And you've just got to slow down now. And I said, right. And I said, what's the problem now? And she said, well, I'm virtually doing no spiritual work at the moment. So is that the spirit world telling me to go away and leave them alone? And I said, well, let's examine a few things first. Can I ask you, did you know the medium? And she said, yes. And I said, and how did you know the medium? And she said, we used to sit in circle together. I said, oh. And I said, and did you have a good relationship when you sat in circle together? And she said, no. We weren't exactly what you might call friends. And I said, right. So I said, it could be that this medium is putting her own spin on the words of the spirit world, possibly. And I said, but the most important thing is, have you asked about whether this is true or correct? And she said, what do you mean, have I asked? Asked who? And I said, your spirit team that you work with. And she said, oh, I don't speak to the other world unless I'm giving people messages. And I said, well, maybe this is a moment for you to do this. And she said, well, I don't know. I've tried trying to work out who my guides are. And she said, and I don't know. She said, my friend knows because her main guides are Archangel Michael and Archangel Raphael. And I said, how marvellous. And I said, but maybe this is a moment to say to you, now is the time to sit and work and talk to that other world to get the support that is needed there. And she said, now I've just come to know that my mediumship is all me. I'm all on my own doing my mediumship. And I said, well, that's not really the case. We go and see an individual singer at a concert, don't we? And we see one person stood in the spotlight. I can tell you now, Shirley Bassey is not rigging up that lighting system. She has a team of people that will do it for her. We may only see the one person, but behind them is a whole team. And the same goes for that of mediums and mediumship, that we may not always know who works with us, but I can tell you that there is a whole team for certain who have gone into the making of that demonstrational work that you do. There is no coincidence that over the last week, all of us have heard things, said things, or done things that then when we've come together, have all come together. And I think that's everybody upstairs having a chat with each other before we got here, saying, right, now this lot are getting together. What are they going to be up to?
Don't tell them,
But this ability for that to happen, for the spirit world to know, proves the intelligence of the other world. And to sit and come to know, not just if you're interested in developing your mediumship, but to sit and know that the other world is there in a reality, to me is a very significant thing. Because often in this life, there are times when we will feel quite alone. Even when we are with a lot of people, we may feel quite alone. But to know and understand that even in those moments where we feel we are completely alone, and may be in a room where no one else is apparently there, that the other world are listening, that the other world are there bringing comfort, trying to bring their support. And you see, I was brought up and has always been the kid that asks why. I consider myself a rational spiritualist. And when I say that, I don't take anything at face value in spiritualism. I have sat in seances and trance demonstrations and all sorts of things, and I've witnessed most genuine phenomena, and I have witnessed charlatanism left, right and centre. And sometimes my heart bleeds when I'm somewhere and everyone's going, oh my God, isn't the spirit world amazing? And I'm going, this is a con. But I cannot always burst a bubble for someone else who is willing to believe what they are willing to believe. It is not for me to destroy someone else in what they believe and what they understand. That's not my purpose. My purpose is to encourage those who want to ask and want to ask why and want to seek. But in that journey, one of the most significant things that has come not only through the sitting and meditation, but also the work with the trance states, is the closeness and the friendship of the other world. And you see, when we look at our mediumship and our mediums of the past, there is a rich history of the guides being more prominent than the medium. People talk about Silver Birch and, oh, I've been reading Silver Birch. And sometimes if you sort of say to people about Maurice Barbanel, they'll go, who? Not knowing that that was the medium that Silver Birch worked through. Or White Eagle with Grace Cook. Or Estelle Roberts, who was remarkable in her own mediumship as well as her trance mediumship with Red Cloud, and many, many more. And any of you that have read the biography of Gordon Higginson with the stories of his little girl Cuckoo and other communicators that used to work with Gordon and the remarkable mediumship. But he was sat in circle from the age of 3 by his mother, Fanny Higginson. So, I mean, if that's the spiritualist version of a stage mum. She was told he was going to be a great medium, and she was going to make certain for a fact she was. I was lucky that in my household I was shown things, but I was never pushed. My grandparents and parents never pushed the point of mediumship, ever. It was always allowed to be my choice whether I wanted to go to church, my choice whether I wanted to do things. And you know, and it wasn't until after my grandmother and grandfather had died, and it wasn't until I was in my 30s that there were certain conversations that started to be had between myself and my mother. And I found out something that I had never been told about by my family, because it had been part of a difficult part of history. My grandmother had gone off and for a short time had left my grandfather to go in search of someone that she had loved before my grandparents had married. And she went to America in search of this. And my granddad said, if you need to go and find this man, go and find him. And if there's love there, then you have to decide what you have to decide. And my mum was only a teenager. And when she went off and she was in America, she went to some spiritualist camps that were there. And as she was visiting one camp, a medium came to her and said, you have a daughter, and your daughter is going to marry a man you do not like, and the marriage will not last. But there'll be one son born to the marriage, and as soon as he's born, the marriage will deteriorate. But that boy will always be a part of spiritualism and will never leave it. And sure enough, even in the way to the wedding ceremony, my grandfather was telling my mum, you don't have to marry him, you know. Because he knew that this was not a marriage that was going to last. But they didn't tell her that then. She married him. The minute I was born, the marriage deteriorated. And by the age of 2 to 3, we moved down to the south of England. But through all my life, I was never told that, because she didn't want it to force my hand when it came to mediumship. But no matter what happened, I couldn't leave it alone, because something in me kept calling me back. And that calling that's been described here again and again is that thing that pulls you. It's that thing that pulls you, that can't leave you alone, that says this is where you belong. You may wander away from spiritualism at times, but you haven't wandered away from your spiritual unfoldment, because everything in this life that you touch upon is part of your journey. Every relationship, every friendship, every job that you go to, every neighbour that you have is a significant part, a reason, a season, a lifetime, as Ewan said. That this power moves through an affection. A lot of the time people think they can walk away, and there are people that have walked away from spiritualism and never come back. But on the many occasions I've gone, right, that's it, I'm off. I was going to say a word that I shouldn't say on a platform then. Sod the lot of you. I'm away. And then I've just suddenly realised, hang on a minute, who wins if I walk away? Why am I walking away from the thing I love? Because someone else upset me on the journey. And actually, put your big boy pants on, realise that this is part of your learning, and realise that you'll help other people in that same way someday, that you'll lift them and support them. So my journey within trance, and I love trance, I love to sit and watch the influence of the other world. And you see, we use that term trance, but it's really quite a difficult thing to define, because when people say trance, they often think of, like we demonstrated, trance speaking. And you see, trance speaking and all mediumship relies on a level of an altered state of consciousness. Do you understand that? That the mind has to move into a different way of thinking, a different way of perceiving than our ordinary everyday consciousness. So even when a medium is on a platform giving an address or giving a demonstration, if you notice, they're in their own little world, aren't they? Generally. And they're moving into that altered state of awareness. So really, when any aspect of mediumship or healing or reading is concerned, we are in a state of an altered consciousness and a level of influence. And this level of influence, the stronger that we allow it to become, the stronger the impressions that come. You know, you may hear mediums talk about sitting in the power and meditating and connecting to the guides and helpers. And you heard Jack talking about the aura and the auric field. And as this power builds, as we sit, this light, this power of our spirit, we're building that power, we're recognising that power for who we are and what we are as we sit and as we meditate. Part of our journey of unfoldment is not just about talking to dead people, but coming to recognise the spiritual being that we are, the spirit within. We've talked about it today. And as we build that power starts to nurture the abilities, the senses within us, starts to nurture the intuitive and spiritual side of our nature. And then as we start to blend with the other world, and here's the thing, as we start to become aware of those who work with us, whenever two people come together, whether it's two people physically or you and someone in the other world, there is a blending of energy. Now, how many of you here know that sometimes you meet people and you think, you can stay out there from my energy, we don't gel. But when you meet people that are on a similar wavelength, and as you sit and talk together, that energy starts to be affected, doesn't it? Have you noticed that those of you that experience intuitions and awarenesses, that when you're with your friends or loved ones, you're sat there, you're having a moment at home and it's all gone quiet for a minute, and you turn around and you go, do you know, I was just thinking about Brenda, and the other person goes, oh, I was just thinking about Brenda. Or you sat there and the phone rings and you think, oh, I bet that'll be so-and-so. You pick it up and it's that person. That intuition, that interconnectedness is part of who we are. But as we blend with the other world, this blending of energy starts to rub off on us. when we go to sit in a circle, the reason that you hear so many people talk to you about the importance of sitting in circle is that you are sitting within the power of others who are also supporting you. It's why when you come through these doors to a church and you sit within the church, and again, Jack and Frederick and you and all of them today and Lola have talked about this healing power of just being in this place. And it's not the bricks and the mortar that do that. It's the energy of you that's here. And the energy and the power that has built up over the years. Yes, a church is just bricks and mortar. But it's the power of the Spirit that builds up in that place. Just as the same that you go into some places and you walk in and you go, nope, and you walk out. Unfortunately, if that happens to us when we're going to demonstrate somewhere, we still have to demonstrate. I can remember walking into one church and I went, oh, downtown Beirut, have you got problems on your committee? And they went, how did you know? And I said, it's like walking into a war zone energetically. We'll deal with that before we demonstrate then. And you see, this is why it always makes me giggle. And here we go, I'll just go random for a second. Why do people think they can tell porcupines to mediums and psychics? Because we feel the energy and we feel whether the words are true or not. This is that nature of spirit. And if we don't know, our guides will quickly tell us as well, because you'll often have a little voice that goes, oh, by the way, you need to know this. And you see that blending and connecting to guides and helpers, I find is so important because they become like family. And that often we can turn to the other world for the advice and guidance that we can't find from other people. A lot of my unfoldment was done on my own in the end, because when I sat in circles and kept asking why, I wasn't treated well. Because I'd say, why do we do that? Why do you need to do that? So one of my circle leaders, it was all about open and close the chakras. And I go, why? Why am I opening and closing a chakra? Because that's what we always do. And I went, why? Kid who asked why. But it's always done like that, to protect you. Why? And then I turn around and say, so, hang on a second. So you can't be a medium unless you open your chakras. So how do people who don't even know what a chakra is are able to see spirit? How do kids see spirit when they don't know what a chakra is and they haven't opened or closed the chakra? How do people who don't believe in the spirit world suddenly have full people appear in front of them? And there's the rest of us standing here going, I'd love to see them. I'd love to see them solid form. And there's someone who doesn't even believe and who hasn't even got an idea of a chakra being open, can see them. Because we've confused too many ideas about energy and about spirit. Yes, the chakras are significant in many different ways, but the idea that if you haven't opened a chakra you can't work is a nonsense. And if the idea that your chakras are all blocked and shut down is a nonsense. Because we have to look at where that came from if we're going to truly understand. And then you need to study yoga and the Hindu philosophy to understand what's true about that energetic system. And it's a wonderful thing to study and understand, but it's misrepresented in the West terribly. And it's misrepresented in spiritualism. Oh, you must close all your chakra. Now put a pin in your chakra. I've heard that. Put a safety pin in your chakra to stop evil spirits getting in.
Got a hole in the aura.
We know. But you see, here's the logic of things. You see, this is for me why I say rational. And I know we're laughing and joking, but these are things, honestly, we've all had this, haven't we? Mm-hmm. All the time we have to go against this at times and talk about it. When you think about the idea, and Jack was talking about, when people talk a lot about evil spirits, and I know, remember, everything about our perception of mediumship and awareness comes through our beliefs and is coloured by our mind. So if you live in a level of fear, what you perceive will be fearful to you. If I said to you, to a fearful, negative person, what do you think of the world? It's terrible. war, disease, devastation, this, that. They'll find 1,000,001 things that's terrible about the world, and for them it will be true. But if I then talk to an optimist and someone who believes in joy and love and life, and I say, what do you think about the world? And they go, isn't it amazing how many wonderful things we've got to experience, and the beauty of nature and the kindness of people and the joy of life, and look at this going on, look at this wonderful weekend at the church. And for them, that will be true. It's the same world, but we're seeing it from very different angles. And often when people have ideas about the other world, about the spirit world, about trance, about mediumship, there is often a lot of fear that is put behind it that will condition the experience of the student. When people have said to me, are you not frightened about evil spirits and negative spirits? And I've said 100%, the spirit world, it doesn't scare me. It's the living that I worry about. And here's my reasoning why. If when the spirit world tell us that they are aware of us and that they know us and that they love us and are supporting us, our guides and helpers are there who should know better than us. If our loved ones, our members of our family, our granddams and matriarchs who take great pride in us and protected us in life are on that side of life and we think they're going to let anything happen to us, you've got another thing coming. And then whatever we choose to perceive that divine power to be, if you think that that divine power doesn't care for those people who want to be an ambassador of the other world, then there's something wrong in that state, isn't there? So the only thing we have to fear is that fear itself and what is placed in our mind. And Jack very much said that, Ewan said it, Frederick said it. Thoughts that are placed in our mind by people, funny ideas. And the problem is, if we're not careful, seeds that are planted grow out of control. So we need to be aware of what we nurture in our minds. I can always remember trance mediumship. I'm going to do you some demonstrations of things that I've seen and witnessed and tell you why they're a nonsense. So a lot of people, when they go to develop mediumship in any of its forms, will have experiences that they may have not encountered before. And one of the things that occurs within our natural state of awareness is the fight or flight reaction. You understand about that, okay? That's programmed into us since we were swinging around in trees as monkeys to protect us. So whenever we feel that we are out of control or we are in danger or that there is something fearful going on within us, the fight or flight reaction kicks in. So often when people will start to sit maybe in circle or maybe for trance, we are learning how to let go and surrender. Now in life, how often do we let go and surrender anything? Rarely. Not even when maybe we go to sleep, because we have to be in control because we've got to deal with life. So sometimes when people are sitting and they're kind of surrendering and maybe their tutor or the CD or whatever they're listening to is saying, now let go and let spirit draw close. There may be a part of our awareness as it starts to withdraw that goes, hang on a minute, what are you doing? What's happening? And then automatically, not because there's a problem, but because it's inbuilt within us, the warning system kicks in. The breathing starts to become erratic. The heartbeat starts to pound, and you start thinking, oh Christ, what's happening? Have I got to run? And that's the feeling that comes upon you. How many people have had that experience at some point or another? A number of you. But the problem is the conscious mind tries to read that as something bad's about to happen. Where in fact, if any of you have ever been on a roller coaster, and I don't go on them because they scare me after death, but I do go, you get in there and you know that going up the hill on the roller coaster, and that's the same thing. Boom, 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 boom. Oh God, what have I done? Why am I doing this? Why? And then you go, whee! And then at the end of it, you go, do it again! and the fight or flight has gone from you. But it's a natural thing. But you see, what's fascinating and that often happens, and this used to, I don't know whether it still happens much because I don't see many demonstrations of trance, but I can always remember years ago that when people first started with trance, they used to talk about the heaviness and labour of breath, which is quite normal again, changes of breath. But what would start to happen is people would not understand the naturalness of the fight or flight. So of course there would become this happening. And it became that they believed that every time you went into trance, there was this struggle that had to go on. And then it becomes almost frightening to watch until you realise that it's all happening because of what the medium's perceiving, not what's really happening. And you kind of say to the person, you just be calm, this is you just adjusting, just let it go. Because when we understand what we're dealing with, the fight or flight doesn't kick in. And if the breathing starts to become erratic, all you have to say to yourself, to you, not to the other world, it's you that's responding, not the other world. It's all right, be calm, it's fine, I can let go. And it'll be smooth. And then you'll see people sit and literally they'll be there 1 minute and the next minute the spirit world will speak. And there won't be all of this, you know, and you see it and you go, why are you doing this? Oh, well, that's what happens when I go into trance. Is it? Or is it what you feel has to happen? Is it what you start to be told is happening, or you've witnessed with someone else and therefore because someone else does it, you have to do it? It's interesting when someone, I can't remember who mentioned about it on the weekend, was talking, a video came up on Facebook yesterday evening about trance, and I thought, oh, bloody Facebook's listening to me again. And this woman said, well, you know it's genuine trance when the voice changes. And I thought, well, that's not necessarily true, because the voice doesn't necessarily have to change. Because I asked about that, and I said, why? I said, do you have to change the voice or not? And they said this: we often do it because it makes the mind of the medium believe that it is separate to themselves. They need it more than we need it. And I thought, clever. Because there is a part of us, whether we are a trance medium, a mental medium, a physical medium, a healing medium, an evidential medium, that always wants to make sure it's not us. Is this me? Is this my imagination? Is this part of who and what I am? And so we're always looking to have this separateness. But actually, listen to what we've talked about today. Everything is one. We're all one. We're all interconnected. And so actually, if we can accept and acknowledge, and Frederick said it so beautifully, if we can just acknowledge that we are this power, this spirit, if we can come to understand what this means, that actually the mediumship opens up more and more so naturally. We make hard work of a lot of things because rather than just accepting it's part of who and what we are, we make it hard work for ourselves. We make it hard work for our mediumship. And you see trance as we work with it, mediumship when we work with it. Trance covers so much. Trance healing, trance speaking, trance clairvoyance. Those of you, if you go and look online and look for Gordon Higginson, you will see videos and hear audios of him in the trance state where his guide Paddy would come through and give trance clairvoyance. So a clairvoyant dem with the guide basically acting as the medium. There's healing and trance mediumship in healing. There can be trance psychic art or spiritual art. Any of you that have seen a lady called Lynn Cotterill particularly, and she's remarkable. She will, if you've never seen her, have a little look, see if you can see online. But she'll go into the trance state with 2 pencils in her hands. And with her eyes closed and off in the withdrawn state, she'll stand at a board and start going like this with the pens. And when she steps away, there's a fully drawn picture that's been drawn with her eyes closed, which is remarkable. And the spirit world have been able to work in that way with her, with the trance state as well as the conscious state. And there are many, many others. There is trance teaching as well. When Glyn and I used to work together, we actually used to have courses where we didn't have a syllabus. In the morning, we would sit, and either him or I would sit and go into the altered state and let the guides come through and decide the syllabus for the day of what you were to work on and what you were to look at. And it was wonderful. And so when we sit and come to know the other world, we start to find a connection. When COVID hit, and I think a number of us were fairly quiet about things when COVID hit. We sort of kept doing our work online, but I came back from India 2 days before national lockdown, and when it was announced, and Boris was announcing on the TV that we were going to be shut down for 3 weeks, my chap went, "And the rest?" And I went, "What do you mean, and the rest?" And he went, "You won't work in person until the end of next summer," meaning August, September 2021. And I can't tell you what I told the guide to go and do, because I have a very a very intimate relationship in that way. And I said, absolutely no way. And I'd said to you, hadn't I, when we had that first service, I said, it's going to be longer and it's going to be next year before we start doing things in person. And my first teaching session in person was in this church in the September of the following year. There were other things that the spirit world talked about. And I always ask, as I'm sure the other mediums here do as well, that sometimes we ask for a little proof and a little understanding to prove that connection that we have. And it's not because we doubt, it's because we want to be sure of the work that we're doing. And at a rally 2 years ago, we were doing this rally and we got we were doing it all in one day. And so the last session of the day, the one that we're in now, was the trance session with me. And it was in August, wasn't it, that we did it? And so before the trance demo, because it was really busy down here and I didn't want to be in the noise, I went upstairs and sat in the living room upstairs. And I just said...
Run the Hoover around.
Yeah. And put a quiche in the oven. And if you saw my house, you'd know both of those statements are typically untrue. But I sat there and I said, well, you know, we're going to do our trance demo. I'm going to be the best I can be for you and just be open to whatever comes. And as always, I'd just like something for me, that bit of proof that I know that it is not just my mind. And with that as an external voice, which made me jump because I thought someone had walked in the room, I heard these words repeated 3 times. State funeral, state funeral, state funeral. And I came downstairs and I said to Lawrence, I said, I need to tell someone this because I think it's significant. The spirit world have just said state funeral, and I think the Queen's about to die. The following day, Mavis Patilla passed away, and Lawrence messaged and said, oh, it's Mavis, that's what they were talking about. And I said, no, because I know it's a state funeral rather than lovely Mavis. And of course, 2 weeks later, our Queen passed. Now, it's too big a subject for us to go into, but the idea of prediction, the ideas of things that are known ahead, is a big part of our movement and has often come through trance and channeled mediumship. Gordon Higginson himself, every year at his home church, would give a trance demonstration where the spirit world would come and predict the year's events. And they would be true. And you see this no limits to our spiritualism, to our unfoldment and development. The only thing that limits it is our mind and our willingness to accept the possibility. So all areas of our mediumship and understanding and healing is a close connection with our family and spirit. It's not everyone's journey to be a deep trance medium or a trance healer or a platform medium. It may be, it might not be for you. It might not be where you would place yourself. It might not ever be, like you said, when you were told in the church, you'll be up here doing what I'm doing. I don't think I will. And here you are, with so much more to come. And so we have to understand that the journey that is there will twist and turn and change. But that as individuals, just like Jack said about making a strong foundation, take time to understand and learn. Read books about spiritualism, but recognise this. Everyone who writes a book has written down an opinion. It's not necessarily a fact for you. Just because one medium says, and we have this with trance often, people say, I want to go deeper. I don't know why everyone's so fascinated about going deeper and deeper. You've just got to let it be where it needs to be. But of course, people think that that means you have to go down in your awareness. So a lot of people teach you, if you're going to be a trance medium, you imagine going down steps and down more steps, like hypnosis, down and down and down and down. That's great if your energy goes that direction when you move into the altered state. But what if you go that way? So if someone's trying to take you down there, but you're going up there, you're on a hiding to nothing. Because someone else's way of working is not necessarily your way of working. A lot of people say, can you teach me trance mediumship? The answer to that is no. Not because you can't be taught technique, you can't be taught theory, you can be taught all of that. But the thing is it the aptitude that's there within you? Is it the way the other world wished to work with you? And this is what we need to discover, ladies and gentlemen. And hopefully over this weekend, it started to open your eyes to there is more to you than meets the eye. That there are abilities within you that you may not have discovered yet, that may not have revealed themselves to you. There may be people in the other world who have yet to make themselves known to you. There's a lovely story I'd like to tell you just very briefly about one of my students. Every time she would sit and meditate, this student would see a sumo wrestler sat at the side of her meditations. No matter where she went, no matter what scene she turned up in, a sumo wrestler would be sat at the side. And so she'd go over to him and try to talk to him. And in the meditation, he'd just sit there like that. Actually, I'm getting a sumo wrestler kind of physique about me. And he wouldn't talk to her. 8 years she'd been aware of this man, sat to the side in meditation. Anyone else in the meditation she could go and talk to. She could talk to this guide, that guide, family, relatives, lovely. And then she came to do her training with Reiki. And part of one of the things we do is a meditation to meet your healing guide. And when she went into this meditation, all of a sudden, front and centre in the meditation was the sumo wrestler. And he said, I've waited 8 years for you to get round to doing this. Now, it doesn't mean he wasn't helping or working with anyone else, because your guide is not just your guide, ladies and gentlemen. They're there to help you, but they've got a life of their own as well. But isn't it interesting that the other world were patient enough to wait, but to let her know that they were always there waiting to have that connection, to have that moment. And so for each and every one of you, there are people there who are awaiting the chance to meet you when you move into this other world, into this power. Whether you know who they are yet or not, whether they change, because again, guides and helpers change for a reason, a season or a lifetime. It's no different, because depending on what you're learning in life depends on which teachers you need. But through this wonderful connection of sitting, through working with these altered states, there is so much to discover. In this church, as in many churches, there's a wonderful library of books. Read them, devour them, question them. If you pick up a book, start reading and go, nah, not for me, put it down, go and get a different one. You might come back to that years later on and say, God, this is good. Why did I not read this? Because maybe you weren't ready. Maybe you weren't at that point where it was right for you. You know, there's nothing wrong in disagreeing. This whole weekend, you can agree with us, you can disagree with us. You can say, that's really good, or I don't go along with that. None of us have said. All we've said to you is, here's our thoughts, what do you think? And so let yourself be the kid that asks why. Why does this happen? How does this feel to me? And then take that to the other world. What do you think about this? What do you think about what's happening here? And listen with that inner voice, with that inner feeling. Because there's so much that can come from it. You know, the spirit world can enrich your life regardless of whether you become a medium or a healer in an official capacity. Wherever you go, your energy, your power, your love, your light touches others. And their lives will never be the same after meeting you. That's what a lot of people say. But it will never be the same. But this world would not be the same without you in it. Because what you bring is unique. What comes through you is equally unique in the ability and gifts, if you like, of the Spirit. It's up to you to explore, to find who is there, and to let that shine through you and be those ambassadors and pioneers. There we are. Any questions? Any questions? Left just on Paul, yes.
Hi, thank you very much. It's really interesting and lovely words of wisdom and advice.
Bless you.
Thank you. For those budding and beginner mediums, is it better to practice and build that relationship with guides, helpers, teachers first before you start sitting in the circle? Would you say?
I think that it's a journey that unfolds in its own ways. So it's no time ever sitting and blending with spirit is ever wasted. So long as you find a way and a practice that suits you to sit, then do it. If you manage, you know, years ago, I mean, going back, God, getting invited to a circle was an honour, wasn't it? It was like rare as hen's teeth getting into a good circle. And now people kind of pick up circles and put them down, and they're here one week and they're there another week. So find what works for you. The consistency of you sitting and finding that inner peace, being aware of self, and then just in a gentle way, without pressure, without expectation, without demand. Because we do this, I want. And I want to see, and I want to hear, and I want to get. I love Jack's thing. I wanted all this, then I got it, and then I went, maybe that's not what I want. Because that's true. We often do it. We kind of tell the spirit world, I want it like this, which we can do. But actually, maybe just go to the spirit world and say, help me to be aware of you. Listen, we open it up, aware. Awareness covers every feeling, every thought, every experience. And just help me to, and then whatever, and I suggest whatever you get, make notes. If you see images, if you see people, if you feel a certain sensation, make notes, make notes, make notes. Because as time goes on, things start to build and you start to recognise. You see, there are people that I don't see, but I feel. You even said it lovely. You get the feeling of a certain personality or nature, but you may not know what they look like. Or you get a certain physical effect that touches you and you go, oh, okay, that's when so-and-so's here. Or a change of thought or mind or sensation. Or an image. You might get an image that recurs again and again and again. And that image tells you a certain person. Is that a calling card it would be referred to? But the thing is that as you go, remember just to talk to the other world, even in daily life. You know, I was saying earlier to someone, because I live on my own at home, I often talk out loud to the spirit world, but then I forget when other people are in the house. So I'll turn around and I go, hi, I'm home, and someone goes, oh, who's here? And I go, oh, no one, just the dead people, it's fine. Especially for my mates who are non-spiritualist. They have really interesting and fun times. But I just talk to the other world, and I'll sometimes put a thought to them and go, What do you think about that? And whatever comes back in my mind, I just go, oh, okay, that's interesting. Because there is that connection of thought to something greater that is there. It doesn't mean we're going to live our life by it. And you heard that. You know, it's not a case of, oh, should have dump him, should have stayed, should have do this, should have do that. You know, that's not necessarily what's there. It can be, but it can be. There's often times, and I'll say to people, leave that with me and let me have a think about it. And I'll go away and talk to the other world, and I'll say, what do you think about this? What are your thoughts? And sometimes what will be said, and I'll go, really, are you sure? And then it happens, and I go, oh, you were right. And so that relationship is building, because it is a friendship. It is a relationship. And therefore, we're learning to come to know people. And that just takes time. It may be that there are certain influences that are there with you that won't really reveal themselves till later. You know, you asked about that evidence, you know, waiting for, Jack, with his evidence of his grandfather. I was given, when I was 15, the name of one of my guides. And the medium at the time said, I know I haven't said it right, but another person will confirm this for you so that you know that this is who your guide is. 9 years later, I was having a healing session with someone, and she went, oh, she said, that's a funny word. And I said, what's the word? And it was the name of the guide, a foreign name. And it was remarkable. You know, so there is that level that we have to just continue in our unfoldment, and everything will unfold in its own sweet time. Patience and time.
Thank you.
And there was an interesting point that someone made when asked about language. Trance does not have to always be in the medium's first language. There are instances of trance mediums not only speaking in the language of whoever the communicator is, but also in historic languages that haven't been spoken for centuries. There was a trance medium who had one of their controls spoke in ancient Greek to a professor who studied ancient Greek. Another trance medium had a guide that would come through and speak what everyone was concerned sounded Middle Eastern, but actually didn't make any sense. And one day in front of some college professors, this control came through, and the professors came up to the medium afterwards and said, where did you hear that language? Where have you learnt that from? She said, well, I don't, it just happens. And it happened to be Aramaic, the language of Jesus, from 2,000 years ago. So the possibilities are endless if the mind of the medium and the willingness to be the instrument is possible.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
You're going to come up and chat to him? Have you got announcements?
You're the chairman. You're introducing.
Oh, yes, I've just said. I just said to us, you're coming up to have a final chat. He said, you're the chairman, you're introducing me. So I'm going to introduce Lawrence to finish off today. Thank you.
I'm not pedantic, I just like it right. Big thank you to all our demos. Come on, all of it. Come on. Come on. Yes, you. That kind of herd cat. Pauline. Well done, all of you. Thank you very much. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant day. Wonderful service, wonderful talks, much appreciated. Thank you all so much. Now we're having a night off. Yes, all right.
We're going clubbing.
You're going to what?
We're going clubbing.
We're going to trance and rave, aren't we?
We're going to Subway, dear. Tomorrow there are still a few spaces left. Jack and Lola have a workshop on the healing within the mediumship.
Can I add a comment?
Well, you started, so you may as well finish.
No, I just just to make this advert good, if you are interested in the phenomenon of the of the healing within the evidential mediumship, tomorrow you will be able to, on the workshop, to explore that phenomenon within the healing within the evidence. So thank you.
Thank you.
Shut up.
That's phenomenal, Jack. Thank you.
We were just talking, and somebody said phenomenon, and it just brought back that da 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 da. So every time, but unfortunately, Mark was said it twice in his trance, and we were sat there going, no. Really, don't do that. So anyway, and then tomorrow night we round off with an evening of experimental mediumship. So everybody will be working with evidential mediumship, slightly different way. Don't forget, bring along a photo or an object for a loved one for the psychometry part. There's other areas as well. Starts at 7, runs through to 8:30. Then on Tuesday morning, the door is locked, the phone is off the hook, the messenger is not being looked at. I don't care, all right? Just leave me alone. I've had so many messages saying, I know you're busy, and I'm going, yes, I am. But thank you.
Private sittings any left? If
Yes,
people want them?
we have 2 more with the lovely Ewan on tomorrow, so that's 3:30 and 4 o'clock with Ewan for a private sitting. Anything else? No? Going to throw something else in? Okay.
I've already been asked for the dates for next year, by the way, and I said to someone, let's get the day over first.
Yeah. Let's see if I survive this weekend. Actually, I've already started approaching a few people. So, yeah, here we go. Anyway, thank you all. It's been a great day. I hope you've got a lot out of it. I hope you've got stuff to take away. Thank you, everybody who's been joining in online. Belinda Dickinson, if I need anybody to take the mickey out of me, I have a church full of people that can do that. Would you please stop doing it? From Florence. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Laurie.
Eh? Why? Oh no!
Chocolate.
Todd, turn the camera off.